If God does not exist, then everything you believe about right and wrong, about justice and mercy, about the very meaning of your existence, is nothing but a beautiful lie. And the man who proved this almost died for it. Fyodor Dostoevsky stood before a firing squad at 28 years old. The rifles were raised. His heart pounded against his ribs like a caged animal. And in that frozen moment between life and death, he saw something that would haunt humanity forever. No God, no rules. He spent his entire life wrestling with this question. He suffered imprisonment, mock execution, epilepsy, gambling addiction, and the death of his own children. And from that ocean of suffering, he pulled out an answer so terrifying, so profound, that the world is still trembling, as he declared in his masterpiece, "If God does not exist, everything is permitted." Today, we descend into the deepest corners of the human soul, and what we find there will change how you see the world and yourself. December 22nd, 1849, St. Petersburg, Russia. A group of prisoners is marched into the freezing air of Semyonov Square. Among them stands a 28-year-old writer named Fyodor Dostoevsky. His crime, attending a literary discussion circle that dared to question the Tsar. The prisoners are lined up. White execution robes are draped over their shivering shoulders. The firing squad raises their rifles. Dostoevsky closes his eyes. He has 60 seconds to live. And in those final moments, something extraordinary happens inside his mind. Time does not slow down. It explodes. Every sensation becomes infinite. The sunlight reflecting off a church dome becomes the most beautiful thing he has ever seen. Every single second of life became an entire universe. Then the drums roll, but the bullets never come. It was a staged execution, a psychological torture designed by Tsar Nicholas I. The sentence is commuted to 4 years of hard labor in Siberia. To be a human being among human beings and remain one forever. The man who walked away from that square was no longer the same man who had entered it. Something had shattered inside him, and something else had been born. What emerged from that moment of terror would become the most dangerous question in the history of philosophy. Here is what most people get wrong about Dostoevsky. He was not a theologian. He was not trying to prove God exists. He was doing something far more terrifying. He was testing humanity. Think about it, you wake up tomorrow and every moral code, every commandment, every religious teaching is gone, not just the rules, the very foundation beneath them. If there is no divine authority, no cosmic judge, no eternal consequence, then who decides what is right and wrong? You, me, society. But society once approved of slavery. Society once burned witches alive. Society once cheered as gladiators killed each other for entertainment. Without God, morality becomes nothing more than human opinion. And human opinion is terrifyingly flexible. This is the abyss Dostoevsky stared into, not whether God exists, but what happens to us if he does not. He understood innocence. He understood purity, as he wrote. The soul is healed by being with children. And he knew exactly what it means when that innocence is shattered, because Dostoevsky did not just ask the question. He created a character who would use the suffering of children to put God himself on trial. In The Brothers Karamazov, Dostoevsky created 3 brothers. Each one represents a different answer to the God question. But it is the middle brother, Ivan, who asks the question that has haunted philosophy for over a century. Ivan does not deny God outright. His argument is far more devastating. He says, even if God exists, I refuse him. Why? Because of children. Ivan presents his brother Alyosha with real cases of children being tortured, beaten, and murdered by adults. And then he asks the most brutal question imaginable. Imagine that you are creating a fabric of human destiny with the object of making men happy, but that it was essential to torture to death only one tiny creature. Would you consent? If Dostoevsky's exploration of godlessness is resonating with you, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of human wisdom. Because what comes next might change how you see everything. Alyosha, the believer, whispers, "No, I would not consent," and that is Ivan's point. No harmony is worth a child's tear. If God's plan requires the suffering of innocence, then God's plan is morally unacceptable. This rebellion leads us to the most controversial chapter ever written in fiction. Inside The Brothers Karamazov hides a story within a story, a parable so powerful that scholars have spent over a century trying to decode it. Ivan tells Alyosha a tale. Jesus Christ returns to earth during the Spanish Inquisition. He walks the streets of Seville, healing the sick, raising the dead. The people recognize him instantly. But then, the Grand Inquisitor arrests him. The church itself imprisons Christ. In a cold prison cell, the 90-year-old Inquisitor confronts Jesus face to face. And what he says is shattering. He tells Jesus, "You gave humanity freedom, but freedom is the most terrible gift you could have given them." People do not want freedom, they want bread and certainty. The Inquisitor argues that the church corrected Christ's mistake. They took away the unbearable burden of free will and replaced it with comfort, mystery, and authority. "We have corrected thy work. We have founded it upon miracle, mystery, and authority." And Jesus, he never says a single word. He simply leans forward and kisses the old man on his bloodless lips. Silence against raw power. That kiss is Dostoevsky's answer. Love needs no argument, but the question remains, can humanity truly handle freedom? And what happens to those who try to live beyond all moral boundaries? If God does not exist, everything is permitted. But what does that actually look like in practice? Dostoevsky did not leave this as an abstract idea. He gave it flesh and blood. He gave it a name. Raskolnikov. In Crime and Punishment, a brilliant young student named Rodion Raskolnikov develops a theory. He divides humanity into two categories: ordinary people who must obey the law, and extraordinary people who have the right to transgress it. Napoleon killed thousands and history calls him a hero. So why can Raskolnikov not kill one miserable old pawnbroker? For the greater good. He convinces himself intellectually. He plans the murder with cold precision, and he does it. He kills the old woman with an axe, but here is what Dostoevsky reveals with surgical precision. The mind can justify anything, but the soul keeps the true account. Raskolnikov's theory was flawless on paper. In practice, it destroys him from the inside out. He does not feel like Napoleon. He feels like a trembling wreck. His body rejects what his intellect approved. Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. You can kill God in your mind, but something inside you refuses to cooperate. And when an entire society tries to kill God, the results are catastrophic. After the murder, Raskolnikov does not celebrate. He does not feel liberated. He falls into a raging fever. He becomes paranoid, suspicious, terrified. He pushes away everyone who loves him. His theory said he was extraordinary. His soul told a very different story. Guilt consumes the godless mind. But Dostoevsky takes this idea even further. In his novel Demons, he shows what happens when an entire society abandons its moral foundations. A group of nihilists attempt to build a revolution based on pure reason alone. No God, no tradition, no moral constraint of any kind. The result: manipulation, murder, madness, and total self-destruction. Every character who embraces the idea that nothing matters ends up proving that everything matters desperately. The leader Stavrogin is perhaps Dostoevsky's most terrifying creation, a man of extraordinary intelligence who has freed himself from all moral feeling. He can do absolutely anything, and he feels absolutely nothing. In that emptiness, he discovers not freedom, but the most absolute prison imaginable. Freedom without conscience is the most elegant form of self-destruction. Dostoevsky saw the 20th century before anyone else. He predicted that when societies abandon their moral foundations, they do not become free, they become monstrous, and history proved him devastatingly right. But there is another dimension to this story, one that makes it deeply, uncomfortably personal. Here is what makes Dostoevsky fundamentally different from every other philosopher who ever wrote about morality. He did not write from an ivory tower, he wrote from the gutter. Dostoevsky was a gambling addict, not a casual one. A devastating, soul-crushing, life-destroying addict. Addicted, broken, desperate. He would lose everything: his money, his wife's money, his friend's money. He pawned his wife's wedding ring, his winter coat, even his own manuscripts. And every single time he would write letters drowning in shame and self-loathing, swearing on his soul that he would never gamble again. And then he would do it again and again and again. This is crucial to understanding his work. When Dostoevsky writes about the darkness of the human soul, he is not theorizing from a safe distance. He is confessing. He knew what it felt like to do the very thing you hate yourself for doing. He knew the devastating gap between knowing what is right and actually doing it. I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man. I am an unattractive man. Those famous opening lines from Notes from Underground are not fiction. They are autobiography, and it is precisely because he knew his own darkness so intimately. that he could map the darkness inside all of us. But from this darkness, something no one expected began to emerge. Every great thinker who wrestled with God's existence eventually hit the same wall, the problem of suffering. If God is all-powerful and all-good, why does suffering exist at all? Most philosophers either denied God or denied the significance of suffering. Dostoevsky did neither. He embraced suffering as the doorway to transformation. In his Siberian prison camp, surrounded by murderers and thieves, Dostoevsky's intellectual faith crumbled completely. The sophisticated Christianity of his youth fell apart, but something else took its place. He watched illiterate peasant prisoners find genuine, unshakable peace through simple faith, not the faith of theologians and professors, a faith forged in the furnace of suffering itself. 1. Suffering strips away every illusion. 2. It reveals what truly matters. 3. It creates compassion for others. 4. It forces genuine transformation. Dostoevsky came to believe that suffering is not a flaw in God's design, it is the essential feature. Without suffering, there is no growth. Without darkness, there is no light. Without the cross, there is no resurrection. The darker the night, the brighter the stars. The deeper the grief, the closer is God. Suffering creates the soul. This was not optimism, this was something far more radical. The very thing that seems to disprove God might actually be the strongest evidence for his existence. But Dostoevsky still needed to answer the ultimate question. So what was Dostoevsky's final answer? After a lifetime of questioning, suffering, and writing, did God exist or not? Here's what is truly extraordinary. After creating the most powerful arguments against God ever written, after giving Ivan Karamazov words so devastating that atheists still quote them to this day, Dostoevsky chose to believe. But not blindly, not because the logical arguments were convincing. He believed because of something he observed in human nature that pure reason alone could never explain. He saw that when Raskolnikov murders, his soul screams in protest. He saw that when Alyosha loves, something transcendent enters the room. He saw that the peasants in Siberia, who had nothing but suffering, possessed more inner peace than any philosopher. Beauty. That was his evidence, not logic, not theology, not rational proof. Beauty, the beauty of a child's laughter. The beauty of forgiveness offered to the unforgivable. The beauty of someone choosing good when evil would be so much easier. Beauty will save the world. Beauty will save the world. He did not prove God exists. He showed that something inside every one of us behaves as if God exists. That stubborn refusal to accept a universe without meaning might be the most important thing about being human, and this brings us to the question you must answer for yourself. Dostoevsky died on February 9, 1881. 30,000 people walked through the streets of St. Petersburg to honor him. But the question he left behind is still alive, still waiting, still demanding your answer. Look around you. We live in an age where God has been declared dead more times than anyone can count. Science has mapped the genome. Technology has connected every corner of the globe. We have more information than any civilization in history. And yet, we still feel guilt when we lie and love when we sacrifice, and awe when we witness beauty. If everything is truly permitted, why does your conscience still keep you awake at 3 in the morning? If morality is nothing but opinion, why does injustice still make your blood boil? Dostoevsky did not give us a comfortable answer. He gave us something infinitely more valuable. He gave us the right question. The mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. The question is not whether God exists somewhere in the sky. The question is whether God exists inside you, in your conscience, in your capacity for love, in your refusal to accept that nothing matters. What do you believe? That is Dostoevsky's eternal challenge, not a theological argument, a mirror. If you made it this far, comment everything permitted to prove you wrestled with this question alongside Dostoevsky himself. The wisdom of the ages is yours, use it well. Dostoevsky descended into the darkest corners of the human soul and returned with a truth that still burns. The question was never whether God exists out there. Conscience loved beauty. The question has always been, what kind of person do you choose to become in a world that gives you the terrifying freedom to become anything?